Hello, my name is Daryl Robert Schoon, and I am here with Reverend Betty Tadaleski, the founder of the Temple of Universality here in Tucson, Arizona. And the subject today, Betty has told me, is Oscar Wilde. Now, Oscar Wilde has a reputation of being the bad boy of his era. True. But you have to realize who called him the bad boy? Victorian England. Now, at the Temple of Universality, Oscar has a great reputation. And
yes, he does.
As a wonderful, wonderful human being.
He had a great sense of humor. He still does. He likes fun, fancy. He loves metaphysics and magic, and so do we. And so I've been thinking about him because he works in the temple a lot. He stands there.
All right, now, this is what I want to bring out again, Betty. All right. Most people know Oscar Wilde because they've read about him in books, all right? They've taken a literature course and maybe read a few things that he's written and passed over, maybe even had to write a paper on Oscar Wilde, all right? But that's the extent of most people's knowledge of Oscar Wilde. Now, before we begin this program, Betty, you have to tell us about your relationship with Oscar Wilde.
Well, actually, I met him in Ireland.
Okay, all right. Here we go.
I mean, isn't that where you meet
that's
spirit,
okay. In spirit.
Yeah.
And how did it happen?
Well, my two sisters and Reverend Diane Powell were doing having a wonderful time there in Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. Been out there a few weeks, and we're just came out of the beautiful park across the street from I forget what they call it, the Green, but it was so lovely. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of Ireland is. So they said, we have to go back into the park. Sharon and Diane have to go back in the park and get some more pictures of Oscar Wilde really close up, And so my other sister, Reverend Nora Allen, and I were sitting on a bench outside the park.
Okay.
And the wrought iron fence was like about 12, 14 feet high.
Okay.
Well, they ran in there and they snapped our pictures. And here's Oscar Wilde sitting on this iron bench, and the sculpture is like iron.
Okay.
It's like
there's
He's sitting.
A metal sculpture of Oscar Wilde sitting on the bench. Okay.
He's got green and red outfit on.
All right.
And
a life-size.
Life-size.
This is big.
And so he's just sitting there with his legs crossed, and, just like he's waiting for conversation. Well, they're having one with him because they're all psychic anyway.
That's right. Okay.
So anyway, they get locked in. They get locked in the park. There's no way out. Da-da-da-da. They're running around like chipmunks.
Yeah.
Well, finally, of course, they're out of there. But when we come home, and I'm doing a talk the next day in the temple, so I'm pondering what I could write about, because we've had a wonderful time. So he appeared. I'm sitting there pondering, okay, what am I going to speak on tomorrow? And he appeared there, and I saw him in this wrinkled green and red
like he had
outfit
in the sculpture in the park.
That's what he said. He says, well, of course I'm wrinkled. That's how he said. Well, of course I'm wrinkled, Betty. He said, you saw I've been sitting there all that time in that park, on that park bench. And he starts telling me, he says, I know you're going to be in the podium. And so here's something you can say. If you would read some of it, we're just going to read a bit of it, friends, because there was some other things here too.
This was received on May 27th, 2002, when Betty was here in Tucson. She was going to give a talk the next day at the Temple of Universality.
Just got back from
her trip.
From a trip.
And Oscar Wilde appears to her and tells her this, and she writes it down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
While sitting in meditation on Monday morning after my temple talk on fear, quote unquote, the day before, I was joined by the Irish poet and author Oscar Wilde. I saw him stand up from his bench in the park in Dublin, Ireland. His clothes were wrinkled, and with his usual wit he said, "What do you expect? I've been sitting there a long time." He said, "I listened to your talk yesterday. Oh yes, I was there, along with the many who were feeding you those words. My suggestion to you is to ask the people to consider the cost. Do they consider the cost, the price they pay in order to hold on to their fears and anxieties? The cost is very dear, as we Irish say. They might want to reconsider the cost in karma that is attached to resentment, for an example. We appreciate your visit and your spiritual connection with Ireland. Your heart is still filled with compassion for us and an understanding of our difficult past. Music and poetry have been our buckler and shield during our great challenges. The mind alone is one's protection and direction. One charts his own course during his lives in whatever state, form, composition, or dimension he may reside. The karmic cost of criticism, resistance, and resentment may surely be cancer. Those negative vibrations outpicture in myriad ways from the physical to the financial and through the entire spectrum of human existence. All those negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions are but aspects of fear. Indeed, the opposite of love is not hate, but fear. Your world will change dramatically for the good when there is greater awareness and acceptance of divine laws. Angry and fearful people are crying out for justice. Justice is governed by natural divine law. It is the law of cause and effect. Karma is not just a Hindu word. It is cosmic justice. There are no victims nor attorneys in the cosmic court of justice. And then he ends it with a little poem for you. This is an authentic Oscar Wilde poem that you won't find in any anthology of his writings.
I know.
A little wit would surely fit the happenings of your day. A little prayer, a little play, and be careful of what you say. For those words are written truly in the very air you breathe. No matter how you plead and cry, you can never, ever deceive. The creator of the universe records your thoughts and your words as well. And this, my friend, creates for you both your heaven and your hell. Wow. Oscar Wilde has lost none of his wit.
Not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. And so, since we're both fans and friends of Oscar Wilde, and we do enjoy having him, and as he said, the people that feed you those words, I do not take that for granted.
That's right.
You know, I love to be able to be on the podium and speak for friends and the spirit world. And so I wanted to talk about Oscar Wilde and his friends, Arthur Conan Doyle and Mark Twain, and the Langham Hotel. And we have that also in common. You know, when I was doing the talk in Australia, the peace talk, and as I've said, my entourage, as it were, took me to the Langham Hotel in Melbourne, and there was this book on the coffee table. Even though it was late at night, I had to read the book, and it was about their mother hotel, as it were, the old Langham
in London.
In London. And so I got this insatiable desire to go to the Langhams so that I could see and meet with these spirits of these friends of mine in London.
In the book, they told you that that this group of figures used to meet at the Langham. And who were they?
The American literati, the London literati, the Mark Twain was one of them. Oscar Conan Doyle says that his connection with Oscar Wilde changed his life, changed his writing, and made him even more successful.
Wow.
So he was a friend of Oscar Wilde the whole time. This was so good. But there was also the British royalty, because the Langham was the great hotel.
It was the grand dam of Victorian England's cream of the crop.
It was, and who knew? I didn't know until I was in Melbourne and read about it. And so when I I'm going to a peace conference in North Korea with Women's Federation for World Peace. And my sister Sharon Allen, you know, who lives in Seattle and other places. And so she said, well, I want to go to the Langham too, and because she's even more psychic than I am.
Yeah.
And we wanted to meet these people
Right,
at the Langham.
at the Langham.
So when I flew out, left North Korea and into Seoul, South Korea, and flew into London, and met my sister who flew in from Seattle, and I just get the luggage out and we start scouting around trying to find spirit in the Langham.
Now, I want to say something about the Langham. Martha and I have stayed there. This is not any ordinary hotel.
No.
All right?
You wouldn't be going there because it's downtown.
It's
the
old part of the financial district. And the gentleman who opens the doors is dressed like, as if a costume. Period. But the truth is, that's what they used to dress like at the Langham.
Right.
That's
right.
And what I remember about the Langham is not only do they do the turn down service for your bed, but I remember that they had a little extra rug that they put out at night with your slippers on it by the bed. By the bed.
It was lovely, and we were so excited to be there together.
Yeah, it was amazing.
In the Langham.
In the Langham.
Okay. So we play catch up, you know.
Yeah.
I've been here and you've
been
been
there,
here.
and here we are.
And this is great. And so we talked and chattered, you know, until midnight. And so we are, well, actually, we have already scouted the place.
Okay.
We have run up and down.
Now
the steps, you remember, are they're not too wide.
No,
okay?
no.
So we're on the 8th floor, and we're going up and we're going around and looking for spirit, okay? And where are you, you know?
That's good.
And so we didn't get any response. And so we finally just exhausted and just fell on the beds, you know. And about 5 minutes later, after we are in the twilight zone, you know, this alarm goes off, very loud alarm, you know, the hotel is on fire, the hotel is on fire, this is not a test, this is not a joke, you know. So I look out, and the little narrow hotel halls of people are, you know, like sardines, you know, because of course the little elevator, which is about this wide, you could not use anyway, okay? So I start...
9 floors, people are just trying to get out.
So we put our coats on,
okay,
and in spite of the fact that I always tell people, no matter whatever emergency, grab your passport.
Yeah,
you don't exist without it.
Yeah.
Well, I never thought about my passport, and she didn't either.
All right.
Well, I am whirling around like a dervish.
In the room.
In the room.
Okay.
And I couldn't find my makeup kit.
Okay, this is good.
I could not find my lipstick.
All right.
I discovered right then and there that lipstick was more important to me than a passport. Now, isn't that stupid? But you know what? I didn't know why my sister was not going. I said, you go ahead, you go ahead.
Yeah, this place could be on fire. It's on fire.
It says, they keep saying all the time,
get out.
Never shut up.
Yeah.
This is real.
The sounds.
This is real, okay?
Yeah, emergency.
So I look at her, and she's got her beautiful red coat on, and she's just whirling over the other side. I said, what are you doing? You go out there. She says, because I can't find my lipstick.
Oh, that's right.
I said, I didn't know we had that in common.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So anyway, I'm so tired, and you can't get in out there anyway because it's packed. Sardines
people
going
leaving
uphill,
the
you know, up.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and I'm exhausted.
Oh.
And so
what time is this?
Oh, it must be about 2:00
in the morning. Okay. All right.
So I lie down. I said, okay, the hotel's not on fire. I'm not going out there. I'm not going out there without my makeup on.
That's what I wanted to. That's the point I wanted to make.
That's it.
That's
she
it.
says, well, I'm not going either. I'm not going either. I said, Sharon, you go.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
This is a matter of life and death.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
So I collapse on the bed, and she does too. And soon as I lie down and take a breath and say I'm not going, Oscar Wilde comes in the room, and he says, a little wit would surely fit the happenings of your day. A little prayer, a little play, and be careful what you say.
So that came to you when you're lying on the bed at the Langham.
That's how I knew it was Oscar Wilde.
Oh, because of what he'd done before.
Because he stood there
Yeah,
and
repeated the same little ditty poem.
Yeah, the same thing. He said, and now when I know he's around, he'll come in and say,
And
a
say
little
that.
wit would surely fit the workings of the day, and be careful what you say. And he's always got that green and red, green pants and red jacket on, you know. And dear, dear, dear friend, nobody has ever died. No one, it is not possible that anyone can die.
Yes, the spirit. There's no death.
There is no
death.
No death.
There's an exit. There is a leaving of this plane, but there's no death of the consciousness of the impelling spirit behind it. Not at all.
So anyway, I told Sharon, I said, he's standing here repeating his poem, and I quoted it, and she said, and he said, well, yeah, we saw you all going up and down the stairs, you know, trying to find us. And he says, Conan Doyle's here too, and Mark Twain and other ones, you know, and he listed them all. Yeah, we saw you running up and down the stairs, you know, trying to find us. We just came in. And he says, of course, the hotel's not on fire. Not on fire. He said, no, we just wanted to welcome to the Langham.
Langham. Oh. See, we Betty, Martha and I did have spirits at the Langham, but down in the bar.
Oh, down in the bar?
But we never ran into them there. This is far richer. Yeah. It's wonderful.
It's so typical of Oscar Wilde too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Arthur Conan Doyle, whom I hope we are going to hear from in about 2 hours.
Oh, that's right.
Tonight.
No, we will. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Anyway.
Oh, we will. Isn't he Christine's JQ? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
So life goes better with spirit, and we were really never created to suffer. We just choose that, as Oscar Wilde says. Fear of the unknown, fear of different people. It's so ridiculous, you know, when everybody wants to be friends, you know. We're one family anyway, created in the image and likeness of God.
The amazing thing, Betty, is because we were created in the image and likeness of God as co-creators.
As co-creators, that responsibility. Now, what we don't know when we're here, and this is how we learn to control it eventually, is that our thoughts, because we are co-creators of God, our thoughts are so powerful that they go out, and we just think, you know, we think thoughts we think they disappear.
Yeah, we do.
We think, oh, it was just a thought, just thoughts too.
Yes.
We thought.
Because we don't know we're co-creators.
That's right.
We don't know that God imbued us with the power of creation. And so what happens is those thoughts don't disappear. Those thoughts don't just they just don't peter out.
Never.
They come back in a mirror. All right? But what happens is that because as little children and the ego is afraid and uncertain, it begins to see the world in a very fearful way, which is understandable. The truth of the matter is, those thoughts are so powerful, they will come back and bring reflections of your thoughts back to you. They don't, it's like a boomerang.
That's exactly what it is. Thoughts are like a boomerang. So when you send some hateful thought to somebody, it comes back to you multiplied.
Yes, now.
That's law. That's cosmic law.
Now, friends.
And we can see it in the country here.
Yes. Now,
we can see it in your family. You can see it in the country.
It's gone insane. Because we're trapped. The truth of the matter is, I'm not saying, and we're not saying, maybe that person didn't behave in a, quote, hateful manner. All right?
That's right.
Maybe they weren't up to snuff. Maybe they weren't behaving in a wonderful, loving way. Maybe they were terrible.
But we cannot judge them.
That's right. We can. When the Master Jesus said, "Judge not, lest ye be also judged," this is what he meant. It's metaphysical law that what comes out of you comes back to you. Now,
it's a boomerang.
It's
effect.
a boomerang.
Only it's multiplied when it comes back to you.
And so the conundrum of this, You may have every justification in your thought process to be hateful, angry, spiteful, resentful, and hurt. But the trouble is, justification comes back to you because of not what they did, because of what you thought. And when you realize that's when the turning happens. That's when you realize that you do have some control over your life, that your life no longer has to be filled with fear. And what is asked of you, and I'm not saying it's easy, but in the depths of your fearful depression, to remember that you are loved, to look upon your fellow man with kindness and tolerance and love, it will come back to you many-fold. That's the key.
That's the key. And I had something I wanted you to read, because it's about the I am. A lot of people are not aware, I guess.
The divine presence, which we refer to as the I am, everything, the I am.
I am well, or I am happy,
That's
or
it.
I don't feel well. Oh, and so your brain will not live with a lie. That cosmic drugstore in your brain will make true whatever
what comes through you.
It.
Whatever comes through us.
You even think about, I don't feel well. Okay.
It will reinforce it.
Let's shut down some systems here.
The still
Beloved
small
friend,
voice.
that's law.
I am your still small voice of consciousness within. I am imprisoned by your thoughts of unworthiness and sin. Through many dark ages I've remained here in the dark, while your mind whirled around to extinguish my spark. You are not those thoughts, your feelings and grief, that keep you from greatness by your belief. Master those enemies by the force of your will. Tell them, dear soul, peace be still. I then can direct the work of the Spirit if you sit in the silence so you can hear it. That's wonderful. There it is.
One of the, and it could be from Weil. He didn't identify this. They just said right.
But it is from Spirit. Yeah.
Just right. So it's. I think about a movie called It's a Wonderful Life. I think it was Jimmy Stewart. And truly, friends, it is a wonderful life. It's your choice. You don't have to have one. You can still be miserable and hateful, but you'll be real sorry. That's the thing about it. When you go through the veil and you find out you didn't die, and you're real sorry that you were kind of mean and hateful, because it didn't serve you well. And so you go into that place where you get reassignment and to learn a little better at the next, instead of making just a higher level. It's like school. It's really simple. Life is very simple. It's just like school. You can go ahead and go in through middle school and into college and get a master's degree, or you can keep your master's of destruction and depression. There's no sin about that, but it's
consequence.
It's a consequence.
A friend of mine wrote me from high school, Betty, and he said he'd been going through this immune system thing that he had. Okay, and he said, I've noticed that when I get in a bad space, it gets worse. All right,
yes.
It's like immediate feedback. And then he said, when I get in a better space, it gets better. And I wrote him. I knew this kid.
They think it's a coincidence.
Yeah, well,
instead of cosmic law.
Yeah. And I said, Terry, it's like we're in a divine Skinner box. All right, a divine Skinner box with immediate feedback.
Immediate.
And he loved it, Betty.
Immediate.
He said it summed up his experience, because he'd already noticed that when he succumbed to these things, it got worse, and when he raised himself up, it got better.
And you know what? And we think, well, that's when somebody says, well, you're only human. Spirit says, do not let anybody
tell
put
you
that curse on you.
You're not human, folks. Ye are gods, and Jesus said it. We're merely repeating what most people believe is heresy. Temple of Universality, Sunday at 11.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, Darrell.